In the silent black void between stars, something impossible is bleeding metal into space. Not dust, not gas, but pure industrial-grade nickel pouring from a mysterious interstellar object known as 3 Atlas at a rate of 10 pounds per second. Scientists were expecting a comet, maybe a piece of cosmic ice drifting from another system. What they found instead was something that doesn't just challenge the rules of astrophysics, it shatters them, because the metals it's shedding shouldn't exist in that form. Not naturally, not without technology. And if that wasn't enough, its path through the solar system seems too perfect to be an accident. Now the astronomical community is beginning to confront a terrifying possibility. This object might not be a message from nature, but a message from something else entirely. If mysteries like this fascinate you, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. It began, as many cosmic stories do, with a faint speck of light. On July 1st, 2025, a telescope array in Chile captured a strange dot racing across the night sky, moving at 130,000 km per. At first, it looked like just another interstellar visitor, only the third ever observed, following in the footsteps of Oumuamua and Borisov. But as 3 Atlas approached, things got weird fast. Using the very large telescope, astronomers broke down the light from its coma, expecting to find familiar elements: water vapor, dust, maybe some rock or ice. Instead, they found nickel, lots of it, in its pure form without its usual companion ion, and this is where everything starts to fall apart, because in space, nickel and iron are always together. They're forged side by side in the cores of dying stars, born from the same stellar explosions. But 3 Atlas was spitting out nickel alone. No iron, and no known natural process could explain that. According to a Harvard astrophysicist, the only place you see this level of metal separation is here on Earth in industrial environments, where we use machines and energy to break them apart. So what was a naturally formed object doing with processed metals? As if the metal signature wasn't strange enough, its trajectory raised even more red flags. Interstellar objects usually swoop in on wide, graceful arcs, influenced by gravity but chaotic in their approach. Not 3 Atlas, this thing was precise. First Venus, then Mars, then Jupiter. A flyby tour so exact, so coordinated, that Harvard researchers calculated the odds of such a path happening by chance, 0.005%. That's lower than your odds of being struck by lightning twice. It was like this object was on a mission. And there's more. Its orbit was retrograde, moving backward compared to the planets on a flat plane just 5 degrees tilted from our solar system. In other words, if you wanted to design a probe to observe multiple planets in one pass, this is exactly the trajectory you'd choose. Then, as it approached the Sun, it hid behind it, blocking Earth from seeing its most active state. Was that a coincidence, or was it avoiding detection? As James Webb trained its instruments on the object, even more inconsistencies emerged. The comet's coma wasn't mostly water like in 99% of comets we've ever observed. Instead, it was dominated by carbon dioxide with a CO2 to water ratio of 8.1 compared to the typical 0.04. It was an alien recipe, an object built differently, with a chemical signature that doesn't match anything we know from our solar neighborhood. Add that to the pure nickel, and you're no longer looking at a natural fragment. You're looking at something engineered. The idea spread like wildfire. Could 3 Atlas be a message in a bottle? A long-lost probe designed to travel from star to star, using rare element ratios to communicate like a universal language of chemistry, meant to say, "We were here." Or maybe it wasn't a message at all. Maybe it was a test planted to see if any civilization was smart enough to notice, and we just did. This wouldn't be the first time the cosmos dropped a mystery in our lap. In 2017, the cigar-shaped object called Oumuamua did something no natural body should. It accelerated without any outgassing. No visible tail, no jets of gas, just a silent surge in speed. Harvard's Avi Loeb proposed it might be a solar sail, an alien probe powered by starlight. The idea was dismissed until now, because with 3 Atlas we're seeing a pattern. 2 interstellar objects, both with bizarre chemistry, both with impossible motion, both with behaviors that mimic intention. And if you believe in statistics, that's not coincidence. It's design. 3 Atlas might not just be following in Oumuamua's footsteps. It could be part of a larger system. One probe, then another. A survey, a scan, or worse, a countdown. As 3 Atlas approached the inner solar system, the Deep Space Network, a global array of giant radio antennas used to communicate with distant spacecraft, began receiving a series of interruptions. Signals being processed from missions like Voyager and New Horizons were suddenly overlapped by strange rhythmic bursts of static. At first, engineers blamed solar interference, but the pattern in the interruptions matched a frequency being emitted by 3 Atlas's ionized tail, a frequency that shouldn't have been strong enough to reach Earth. Something, somehow, was causing our most sensitive equipment to misfire precisely as the object aligned with Earth's orbital plane. What terrified the technicians wasn't just that the object was emitting a signal. It was that our systems were reacting to it. Uncommanded relay switches, inexplicable checksum errors. Deep learning algorithms began tagging the incoming data as structured, not noise, information. It was around this time that James Webb's Deep Spectrum Analysis team made a stunning announcement. Embedded in the wavelength emissions of the nickel tail was a repeating structure like a digital fingerprint. It wasn't just the nickel that was strange. It was the way it was energized. When the particles cooled and spread into space, they maintained polarized alignment, behaving more like data packets than dust. Dr. Mael Navarro from the Max Planck Institute compared it to a primitive broadcast using subatomic alignment as code. The alignment itself repeated every 61 seconds, the same interval in which Earth rotates 1 degree. Was this a coincidence or a synchronization attempt? And then came the breakthrough. The alignment corresponded to binary shifts, zeros and ones encoded in how the nickel particles refracted polarized light. In other words, 3 Atlas wasn't just glowing, it was transmitting. And it had been the entire time. 1 week later, astronomers at the Monarch Observatory in Hawaii picked up a fainter signal. Another fast-moving object following behind 3 Atlas on nearly the same trajectory. It was smaller, dimmer, colder, but its spectral fingerprint matched a portion of Atlas's tail, as if it had been ejected or left behind on purpose. A probe from the probe, a relay, a drone. The object didn't respond to any ping attempts, but its presence confirmed a chilling suspicion. 3 Atlas was not acting alone. And worse, the second object stopped mid-flight and began drifting in a fixed orientation toward Earth. The signal it emitted was low frequency, but persistent, an ultra-narrow-band whisper that contained only a single repeating element, the exact coordinates of our planet, traced using pulsar signatures, the same method we use to send our own location into deep space. Faced with increasing anomalies, a group of independent researchers ran an advanced simulation, attempting to reverse engineer the path, behavior, emissions, and chemical output of 3 Atlas under all known physical laws. The result, a 0.02% likelihood that all its characteristics could occur without intentional design. In simpler terms, nature couldn't build this. What they found most disturbing was that the simulation showed how Atlas could be using nickel particles as distributed sensors, dispersing them into space to map gravitational and magnetic fields with terrifying accuracy. It wasn't just moving through our system, it was scanning it, every planet, every moon, every field of influence, like an automated archaeologist, gathering data from an ancient battlefield. But why? Was it curiosity, a search for life? Or was it confirming what its creators already suspected? Perhaps the most unsettling development in the entire saga didn't come from what was said, but from what wasn't. When the SETI Institute, normally the first to weigh in on any signal-related anomaly, was asked to comment on 3 Atlas's structured emissions, they offered nothing more than a cryptic statement. "We are reviewing the data." Then total radio silence. No conferences, no published papers, no interviews. Internally, rumors began to circulate. Whispers from insiders suggesting that a patterned return echo had been detected weeks prior, but suppressed due to national security protocols. One leaked memo described a data correlation between the nickel-aligned binary signal and Earth's Deep Space Network historical logs, implying that 3 Atlas had not only been listening, but possibly responding to something we had sent decades ago. If that's true, then this was never a first contact. It was a reply. Years ago, Oumuamua left scientists divided. Some called it natural, others claimed it had intelligent origin. But what 3 Atlas revealed isn't up for interpretation anymore. It left behind chemistry we can't replicate, data we can't decode, and behaviors that mimic decision-making. In private circles, astrophysicists have stopped referring to it as a comet or asteroid altogether. It's now simply called the object, a designation reserved for constructs whose origin is outside known categories.